Percentage points, survival indicators, incidence and prevalence data. I know, you were told there would be no math. But numbers themselves might not sound all that much fun, emotional, or intriguing. Yet here's the full headline. There are 18.6 million cancer survivors in the United States. 18.6 million. That's 1 out of every 18 people in this country. And globally, there are more than 53 million. Think about that. If you are sitting in a full movie theater, in a busy restaurant, or in the stands of a sporting event, chances are someone nearby is a cancer survivor. Yes, these are staggering numbers. Yet when it comes to cancer, these numbers aren't just statistics. They are people, they are families, they are communities, they are stories, they are you, they are our reality. And the truth is, the data on cancer survivorship tells us something remarkable about medicine, about progress, about resilience, and about the very human ability to adapt. So let's do a deep dive on cancer survivorship by the numbers, because they aren't just numbers. They reveal something about identity, how people live during cancer, how they live after cancer, how they're seen by society, and how they see themselves. And because understanding the science behind these survival rates can also be a huge part of claiming your own hope. This is the After Cancer Podcast. I'm your host, oncology physical therapist, Dr. Leslie Waltke. For more than 3 decades, I've walked alongside people living with and beyond cancer. Whether you are a survivor, a caregiver, or part of a clinical team who cares for them, I'm glad you're here. Because life after a cancer diagnosis can feel uncharted and confusing, even when you have a great medical team. In this podcast, evidence, empathy, and the real human experience come together to help you navigate the physical, emotional, and practical realities of cancer and the life that comes after. This is the After Cancer Podcast, rooted in medicine, spoken in human. Welcome back, and welcome to episode 8, Cancer Survivorship by the Numbers. We are going to do several things here. We'll explore the numbers themselves, the raw statistics on how many people are living with and beyond cancer in the United States and around the world. Next, we'll put those numbers into a human perspective, what they actually mean in daily life, in families, in communities. And finally, we'll talk about why normalizing survivorship matters so deeply, how these numbers can change culture, reduce stigma, and build community. And get this important and stunning point. Cancer survivorship numbers represent one of the largest and fastest growing communities in the world. And yet, many survivors will tell you they often feel alone, misunderstood, or invisible. That's the paradox we're going to unpack together. But before we look at the numbers, a quick definition. When I use the term cancer survivor, I am using the most widely accepted worldwide definition, which includes a cancer survivor as anyone who has ever been diagnosed with cancer from the moment of diagnosis and beyond. Yes, this is regardless of whether they are still in active treatment, are post-treatment, are years out, or are living with metastatic or chronic cancer. If you haven't yet listened to episode 1, please do. There we talk about the pros and cons of the labels and definitions of cancer patients and survivors. It's a good one, so check that one out. Okay, so let's look at the numbers. According to the American Cancer Society's 2026 Cancer Facts and Figures, there are 18.6 million cancer survivors alive today in the United States. Globally, the World Health Organization estimates that in 2022, more than 53 million people were alive within 5 years of a cancer diagnosis. Yes, these are huge numbers, But you know what? These numbers represent progress. It means that millions of people are living longer after a cancer diagnosis than ever before. And here is another thing that is really important to understand. Because the human population is getting both bigger in size and older in age, by 2040, which is really only 14 years away, projections suggest that there could be more than 26 million cancer survivors in the United States alone. That is nearly a 40% increase. Globally, cancer survivor numbers are expected to rise even steeper and faster than that. Let's break those survivor numbers down even a bit further. In the US, and similarly for most places around the world, about 2/3 of all cancer survivors are age 65 and older. That makes sense because cancer risk increases with age. But here's something that often surprises people. Nearly 1.9 million cancer survivors are under the age of 40. These are young adults, teenagers, and even children. And their survivorship looks very different from someone diagnosed at the age of 70. When you start looking at the numbers around cancer type, you see even more nuance. The largest groups of survivors are people who had breast, prostate, and colorectal cancers. Together, those three cancers represent about 40% of all cancer survivors in the US and around the world. But survivorship spans every cancer type, including those that are less common and those that are considered rare. This tells us something important. Survivorship is not a single story. It's a mosaic. It's a patchwork of millions of individuals, diagnoses, and survival stories. Okay, now the important part. Let's put these numbers into human perspective. 18.6 million people. That's more than the entire population of the state of New York. It's larger than the population of Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Phoenix combined. That's how many people in the US are living after a cancer diagnosis. 18.6 million people is more than the population of most states. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine a stadium that holds 50,000 people. Statistically, about 2,700 of those people will be cancer survivors. If you are in a classroom of 30 students, odds are one of them has a parent who is a survivor. If you're at a wedding with 200 guests, about 11 people in that room may be survivors. Numbers this large mean that survivorship is not an outlier. It's not a fringe experience. It is part of the everyday human landscape. And yet, many survivors still feel like they're the only ones. That's partly because survivorship can be invisible. Cancer doesn't always leave visible scars. Many survivors look normal from the outside, while privately carrying side effects, fears, or emotional burdens that no one sees. So when we remind ourselves these numbers, we remind survivors, you are not alone. Your experience is not unusual. You are part of a vast community of people who understand. That is both comforting and empowering. And for the rest of us, these numbers are a wake-up call. They remind us that cancer survivorship is not something happening over there to someone else. It's happening all around us, in our neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, and families. Now let's talk about what these numbers mean culturally and how they have helped normalize survivorship. For decades, cancer was hidden in silence. People were called victims. It was seen as a death sentence. Survivors were often isolated and pitied. But now when we see that 1 in every 18 people is a cancer survivor, the narrative shifts. Survivorship is not unusual. It is normal. It is one of the largest patient populations in the world. This normalization matters. It matters in healthcare, where survivors need programs that address long-term side effects, mental health, and rehabilitation. It matters in workplaces, where survivors often face discrimination or misunderstanding. And it matters in families, where survivors may struggle to re-enter a quote-unquote normal life. By framing survivorship as common and growing, we reduce stigma. We open the door for honest conversations. We make it easier for survivors to advocate for themselves, and we create space for policies and programs that meet their needs. Here's an example. Think about maternity leave. It became normalized in workplaces because childbirth was recognized as a common, expected human experience. Survivorship deserves the same recognition. With nearly 19 million survivors today and millions of more coming, our systems need to catch up. Normalizing survivorship is not just about awareness, it's about justice, equity, and care. It's also important to emphasize that while survivorship is massive, it is in no way monolithic. Survivors are diverse in every sense of the word. Some are children and adolescents facing challenges like missed school and disrupted development. Some are working age adults balancing careers, parenting, and lingering side effects. Many are older adults managing survivorship alongside other age-related conditions and social factors. Survivorship also varies across race and ethnicity. We know that Black and Brown cancer survivors, for example, often face higher rates of financial toxicity and more barriers to follow-up care. Rural survivors may struggle with access to specialists. Survivors in lower income communities may face different long-term challenges than those in wealthier areas. And yes, all of this impacts how long people live and how many may survive. So when we say 53 million survivors, we're really talking about 53 million different stories. Each one has its own context, its own challenges, and its own resilience. That's why survivorship cannot be one size fits all. The numbers push us to celebrate the size of the community, but also to honor and to care for its diversity and continue the push for equity. Finally, let's look to the future and to the future of survivorship. We know the numbers of cancer survivors is expected to climb dramatically in the coming decades. That is oddly partially good news because it reflects better treatments, better detection, dropping death rates, and better overall health. Yet it also means we have to prepare. Healthcare systems must expand survivorship programs. Communities must be ready to support survivors emotionally and practically. Policymakers must understand that survivorship is not an afterthought. It is a central part of cancer care. So see, these numbers, these survivorship numbers are not just data points. They are a call to action. If survivorship is growing, our responsibility to survivors must grow with it. I shall repeat. If survivorship is growing, our responsibility to survivors must grow with it. We cannot allow millions of people to feel unseen or unsupported. We have to meet them where they are, with compassion, evidence-based care, and resources that recognize the full scope of life after cancer. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with your episode reflection prompts. Prompt number 1. What do these numbers mean to you personally? Do they help you feel less alone or more connected to others in the survivorship community? Prompt number 2. How do they shift the way you see your own survivorship or the survivorship of someone you love? And finally, prompt number 3. How can you, in your own circles, help normalize survivorship? Can you speak about it openly, support survivors around you, or advocate for programs and policies that meet survivors' needs? Take a moment now and think about someone who could benefit from reflecting on today's questions alongside you. Please share this episode with them and see where the conversation takes you both. As always, I look forward to reading your comments and reviews and continuing the conversation. As always, you'll find resources and the link to get future episodes emailed directly to you in the show notes. Coming up in episode 9, we're diving into Chemotherapy 101. Chemotherapy is one of the most well-known cancer treatments, but many people don't fully understand what it actually is, how it works, or why the experience can be so different from one person to another. In the next episode, we'll break down the basics of chemotherapy, how these drugs work and attack cancer cells, why they also affect healthy cells, and what that means for the body during and after treatment. We'll also talk about some of the most common side effects people experience, why they happen, and what patients and survivors should understand about how chemotherapy can affect the body long after treatment ends. And before we wrap up, a quick shout out to ABCD after breast cancer diagnosis. ABCD provides free, virtual, personalized emotional support by matching anyone impacted by breast cancer with a trained volunteer mentor who has lived a similar experience. Learn more about getting support or becoming a mentor at abcdbreastcancersupport.org. You'll find their information in the show notes. So where does this leave us? 18.6 million people in the US and more than 53 million people worldwide. These numbers are not abstract. They are our parents, our partners, our siblings, our friends, our coworkers, our children, our neighbors. They are us. So it leaves us with a powerful truth. Survivorship is not rare. It is everywhere. It is growing, it is diverse, and it is human. Remember, the number one way to advocate for yourself and your own individual health is to care for yourself and treat yourself like you are the most important person on this planet, because you are. I'm Dr. Leslie Waltke. Thank you for joining me today on the After Cancer podcast. Until next time, exercise like your life depends on it, because it does. Peace out. Let's talk again soon.